Islam, Islam. It's a new day for the Moors. It's a new day for the Moors. Oh yeah, Islam. It's a new day for the Moors. Y'all made me do it, ain't wanna do it. Try to work the job, I was going through it. Here we go. Streets and the streets, you wanna stay in the temple. Same speech, same talk, same thought. No bite, but alright, I'm the hawk. Making I'ma handle that. I'm about to go to me, say handle that. Now front seller, front line. Look at y'all, what mine, but it ain't mine, it's God plan, a law plan. Oh man, 2016, all you gonna see is profit noble, true I leave. Old more, step aside, 34, come on, let's ride. Hey! It's a new day for the Moors. It's a new day for the Moors. Oh yeah, it's a new day for the Moors. Yeah, Baltimore. Hey. It's a new day for the Moors. Yeah. It's a new day for the Moors. Oh yeah. It's a new day for the Moors. Check it out. Check it out. You know, better than pie, a prophet of God. You didn't mean to tell people can't go hard. I'm a more of old. The one that grows, the elephants over the elves in the cold. Even went to Spain, we arranged the terrain. Even the civilized chain. Now cipher. 2016, I'ma show you what this means. My tassel roll 360. Do you really think you can tell me what the doors ain't? Do you know I look up the phone and pay? I roll with the prophet, I'm a prophet more. Follow the prophet, so I profit more. Stop it more. A hole in the road, let me drop it more. Now drop it more. It's a new day for the Moors. It's a new day for the Moors. Oh yeah. It's a new day for the Moors. Say what you want. Say they with the fans and all that. It's a new day for the Moors. It's a new day for the Moors. It's a new day for the Moors. Oh yeah. It's a new day for the Moors. Check it out. Between you and I am the wise. It's just never measure up because I won't divide it. I won't teach anybody but you. When the people that love you, they don't believe you. Probably think you got jail religion. Need to wash off that stench of prison. Speaking of prison, that's all y'all attract. But what about the children? Y'all act that. Don't scrap that. I ain't even tripping. I think what happened when the law gives you vision. No government grants, no food stamps. A lot of the temple for watching the ants. For watching my prophet and listen to a law. I will be in hell if I listen to y'all. Listen to y'all. Talking all Moorish. Walk around broke. But that's the show for. Oh! It's a new day for the Moors. What up, Verso? It's a new day for the Moors. Oh yeah. Islam. Yeah. It's a new day for the Moors. That was hell. Hey, and now it's a new day for the Moors. Oh, Robert Shree. It's a new day for the Moors. Oh yeah. Turn it out. It's a new day for the Moors. Hey, check it out. Stop screaming, bragging about that greatness. Third, fourth generation, see through your fakeness. They don't really care about the bill of Granada. That's why I'm focused, Gucci, Prada. Who you uplifting? Nothing, nada. Who you uplifting? Nothing, nada. Nothing, nada. Nothing. Nothing, nada. Got me letting your mind take stolen from the past. If you flex, I'm a blast on you in your ass. My young boys coming, they becoming more strand. But before they learn to love, this is not what to say. So watch your slander, cause they got the hammers. Kinda like Jesus, I'm protecting Jesus. I'm a daughter that apostle. Don't get hostile. They ain't no telling what I do for the gospel. Oh. It's a new day for the Moors. Hey. Yeah. It's a new day for the Moors. Oh yeah. It's a new day for the Moors. Oh yeah. It's a new day for the Moors. What up? It's a new day for the Moors. Oh yeah. What up the real world life? Yeah. Oh yeah. Time for the Moors to stand up. Stand up. We've been in the background too long. It's a new day for the Moors today. To Harker Bay. Get at me. Get at me. What's up? What's up? What's up? First and foremost, I rise giving praise to Allah. I rise. Give me a minute. Giving praise to Allah. That's right. First and foremost, I rise giving perfect praise and adoration to Allah. I give honor to his prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Prophet then, prophet still, prophet always will. We ain't even did nothing that he prophesied about yet, but the prophecy is in motion as I speak. So tonight, what we're going to talk about is, did Jesus really exist? Was Jesus a fable? Was Jesus a fairy tale? Did Jesus literally walk the earth? These are some of the questions that's going to be asked tonight. But before we get to those questions, let's set the tone as to what this is all about. I took some notes because this past Sunday we did a live stream. We called it the final response, which means we're not responding, we're not going back and forth with the chitter chatter with my brother on the other platform. We decided that what we're going to do is we're going to begin to teach our people, you know, the things that's necessary to make them better citizens and more conscious, more righteous people. I mean, to the best of our ability. But it's up to the person who's viewing to take the initiative. Which brings me to this point. A lot of people in the chat, they say, well, where's the rebuttal? We had 4 to 5 brothers, 6 brothers on the panel last Sunday. And we answered every question that we had time to answer. Hold on. We answered every question that we had time to answer. Now, we couldn't go to no 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning, but after 2 hours, we come to see that these questions was foolish. Matter of fact, as I speak, my brother Abba, he's answering these questions on another platform, some of the things that we didn't get to. Now, like I said, you can hit me in the inbox, Tahaka Abuke Bay on Facebook, or you can hit me at tahakabay at yahoo.com, or hit me in the chat room, and then we can go into some of the deeper lessons that we may have missed. Nobody is running from nothing. Let's be clear on that. But this is what I want to say. The Moors of the Moorish Science Temple of America and Ali's men in particular that's on this platform are industrious working Moors, which means this. When we respond to some things, that doesn't mean we're going to have a slide all the time. Nor does that mean that we're going to have to flash 20 books at you. But what we will have is pertinent information that you, the viewer, will have to take notes. And when you take notes, you can fact check. Fact check everything a brother say. I don't care how much you like the brother, how much personality the brother got, how much charisma the brother got. Take the notes and fact check. No, you might not see a PowerPoint. These Moors on this platform are so busy juggling home, job, business, children, a neighborhood, uplifting act. They doing temple. They doing so much. But the information that they have retained is as critical to you as you viewing it on a slide. But you have to write it down. We can't be acting like we the ADHD generation. That when somebody talk, we don't want to get a pen and paper. Come on, man. We can't be the ADHD generation. Our attention is so short. Like a brother said on the chat, on the feed today. This after 15 minutes, I couldn't take no more. Take no more what? Fast forward. It's got a mouse. It's a thing that they call a mouse. It's called a mouse. You press it and it can move it forward to the information, to all the pertinent information. So you don't have to watch the whole 2.5 hours. Skip it. Do you really want to learn, or do you just want to cause confusion? That's the question. Last but not least, before we begin, I want to say this. On this platform, one thing we don't want to do is get into the agitating debate. Now, the healthy debate is fine. Have no problem with it. I mean, I love a good debate. Not a problem. However, on this platform, I'm the host. So I might throw a little, little jab here and there. But I'm the host. I'm not here to debate nobody for the most part. However, a good debate is fine, but when it crosses the line of disrespect, of cursing and calling and taunting people, this and that, even a good joke, baby with the fans, whatever, baby kids, they don't die, they multiply. I'm good with that. Whatever, you know what I'm saying? It's all right, you know. But when you start talking about this old crazy stuff that I've been hearing, come on, now we're going into another. All right, you know, we're not gonna have that on Moorish World. You can even call me a few names, and I don't care, whatever, you know, long as you can end up getting a message, and so you watch and you're watching this video. Last but not least, one thing we're not going to do. We're not going to debate people who great grandparents, I say, were monkeys. We're not going to debate these people. Don't even ask me. If they tell me that their great grandparents were chimpanzees, yeah, orangutans, monkeys, not the great apes. You understand what I'm saying? We're not going to debate the great apes. Because, see, I've learned over time when I used to watch these videos, funny videos on YouTube, that the monkeys in the zoo, they like to throw doo-doo. They will chuck doo-doo at you just for staring at them. So we're not going to debate the monkeys. You know, it's people around here that's running around talking about Moors, but yet they say they are descendant of monkeys. I'm talking about real monkeys. So we're not going to debate the monkey people. We're not going to do it. And I'm not being, listen, I'm not being funny. There's real people out here. Go to YouTube. Y'all think I'm playing fast. Go to YouTube. You're going to see these people say that they come from monkeys. I don't want to name drop because I don't want y'all to get this information and get confused and think y'all come from monkeys. We don't come from monkeys, people. We don't. We just don't. So we're not going to debate people who great-grandparents were chimpanzees. We're just not going to do it. Okay, now, let's go. So, first on the panel right now, we got some brothers that's going to be coming in, and they, you know, like I said, these brothers are industrious. They're in business meetings right now. They're getting off of work. They're doing the things they got to do to take care of their family as well as the community. So, in time, they will be here momentarily, inshallah. Nevertheless, what we're going to do is we're going to start with a brother that y'all have not met yet. But if you've been on the Moorish World, if you've been a viewer on Moorish World, you get to meet him today. A brother from Ali's Men, always been there. This is another brother that that Moorish World had the pleasure to bring to you, as we did last week with the brother Chisholm-Hill. You know, well, this week we got brother Shemil. We got my brother Remiel, which y'all met last week and a week before, Islam Moore. So first and foremost, let my brother Shemil introduce himself to y'all, let you know where he's from, and a little bit about himself before we get started. So brother Shemil, if you hear me, the floor is yours. The people are listening. Tell me a little bit about yourself and where you're from, brother.
Islam, can you hear me?
I can hear you very well, brother. Matter of fact, I'm going to cut my mic down because I hear you more than enough. Because I was playing that old Tahaka Bay hip hop, see. But I'm gonna turn it down now.
Islam. First, I want to rise, giving praise to Allah, give honors, high honors to Prophet Noble Drew Ali, who founded the Moorish Science Temple of America for the purpose of uplifting for humanity. Want to give honors to the forerunner Marcus Garvey, who paved the way for the Prophet. Give honors to all the faithful members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, past, present, and future. Give honors to my comrades and Ali's Men. Give honors to everyone on this call. So with that being said, just give a background about myself. Shemil, I'm one of Ali's Men, been in for a minute. I've been on the blog talks pertaining to Ali's Men Radio. I've written several articles for MoorishAmericanNews.com for Ali's Men. Also wrote a couple of books, Who is Elohim, What is the Higher Self. I'm also currently living in Durham, North Carolina. Give honors to my temple, my home temple in Durham, North Carolina. Islam.
Islam. And also on the panel, we have somebody that you guys are familiar with, my good brother, brother Shemil. Brother Shemil. Now, brother, you very rarely tell talking about your accolades, my brother. I just heard you on another platform, brother, and you was going in. You always seem to go in such a way that, man, it makes a brother think. You know, so I hope and pray that you will be a consistent member on this panel, because the people need to hear what you got to say. So, brother Remiel, I hope I said Remiel. Remiel, the floor is yours, brother. Let the people know who you are. You with me, Remiel? Islam.
Islam, more. I rise first, giving praise to Almighty God, Allah, and giving honors to His prophet, Noble Drew Ali, the last prophet in these days and time. I give honor to all the past and present leadership of the Moorish Science Temple of America, but more importantly, I give honors to all of you, for when man honors man, he honors Allah. Islam, I'm your brother Zachary Grimmy on L, and hope to get it in. We just got off another show, basically dealing with the exact same topic with brother Wade L, and I just like to thank you, brother man, for having me on. It's an honor.
Islam, Muslim. So listen, this question is gonna be for you. Since you up the back, brother, let's get it in. Y'all ready to get it in? Family, y'all ready to get it in? Hey, if y'all ready to get it in about this topic, did Jesus really exist? Did he really exist? If y'all ready to get it, and I'm looking to the left over here because I'm looking at the chat room on my other computer. I'm looking at Facebook on my other one because I want to make sure that y'all engaged, and I want to be able to ask some questions. But don't ask the questions yet. Don't ask the questions yet. Let's wait till we get the roll in, then you ask the question, we're going to get the questions answered. So, Brother Remiel, the first question I have for you is, when did the story of Jesus first enter into the society as we know it? And I mean, as we know it, you know, whether it was 2,000 years ago, whether it was 1,500 years ago, according to your studies, what year did the story Jesus begin to enter into modern society?
Islam, or I'm going to have to answer that question like this. About 2,000 years ago, if you will. Now, with that being said, when we are dealing with this issue of Jesus, right, we are dealing with a very, very complicated topic, because what you have is individuals who base, and I don't want to jump the gun, but basically what we have is individuals who base whether Jesus existed or not on sarcophagi, pillars, temples, and things of that nature, whereas we can verify the actual existence of certain of the pharaoh or the pharaohs, if you will, and some kings, because people worship kings. They looked at them as divine. They were secular as well as religious leaders of the time, where when we dealing with the Nazarene, we are dealing with the humble person who basically his word and his teachings to the people were more important than the actual building of these eternal edifices in stone, if you will. So to answer your question in short, is that Jesus entered into this demonstration about 2,000 years ago, but it gets more complicated than that, because basically what you have is a European civilization that we are living under. And what they have done is they have turned the clock, if you will, or they have turned the calendars in the history upside down. So, for example, everybody commonly know that Jesus, this individual that we know as Jesus, lived in the 1st century AD. According to my research, that may not necessarily be so, and he lived actually anywhere from before 1 AD to possibly 100 years BC, before the Common Era. So what we have is world confusion. So we have generally our Christian brothers and sisters, and they basically are looking for Jesus in any time between 4 AD to 30 AD, or the period of the Common Era. So it entered into history in that time. So let's go a little bit to the canonical gospels, if you will. And I think the earliest one, if I'm not mistaken, is 70 AD. So basically, you have stories that have passed on, and individuals passed them on basically to their followers, and then certain embellishments, if you will, ended up in the Gospels. But that don't mean that that the brother Nazarite, if you will, did not exist. And with that, I'll just turn the floor back over, and we can get into it deeper as the show go on.
Islam, brother. So I just want to try to make sure I get all the answers for the people. So real quick, Ramil, when I speak of Jesus in this context, I'm speaking of the name Jesus. Let's try to clarify so the people can get some form of clarity. The name Jesus as we know it. I'm sorry. The name Jesus. When did it enter into history? And then we can go into the history behind that.
Well, basically, the name Jesus, if you will, or what we use as Jesus, we're basically using a modern name to actually refer to that individual. And that name entered into existence through the Greek translation of what they said that that Jesus was. So we didn't really first start using the name Jesus, if you will, until sometime about maybe 100 or so AD from that time. But prior to that time, if I'm understanding your question, we knew that this individual name that they called Jesus was actually called by another name. And that name that we know it is what some people call it Jehoshua or Yehoshua, which was the native name that the person would have used because he was of the bloodline of the Canaanites and the Moabites. So, as all scholars know, those individuals were speaking the Aramaic language, and then they had others who were speaking the Hebrew language.
Islam. And Brother Shamil, the story of Jesus as told by people all around the world, whether Islamic, Christians, even people of other faiths, Hindu and etc., etc. Everybody knows the story of Jesus. Now, Jesus, as the story is told, was born in Bethlehem and in Palestine back in the day. When did Jesus, according to the story, I'm thinking of the story, I want to ask that, when did Jesus start to teach people, and what did he teach? As it relates itself to, as we call, Christianity or Islam, when did he start teaching, and what did he teach? What was the name of the stuff that he taught, whether it was metaphysically or whether it was literal? Was there a name to what he taught? And I'm leading up into another question.
Islam. Well, what I want to say first and foremost, just to be clear, we have to be clear in the distinction between the Christ or the Christ principle and also Christianity. Now, in our teachings in the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, we know in chapter 46 we have the beginning of Christianity, where it says the foundation of Christianity began in Rome. Right. Roman nations founded the first church, of whom crucified Jesus of Nazareth for seeking to redeem his people from under the Roman yoke and law. Now, with that, we can go back to our questionnaire and confirm to our questionnaire some things. Key 35, where do we get the name Jesus? From the East. Key 36, what does the name Jesus mean? Jesus means justice.
When you refer to when you
Yes,
refer
sir.
to key 36, let's tell the audience that may not be familiar with Moorish science. Key 36, what he's referenced is the Moorish questionnaire, the questions for Moorish children. If you type it in, take a note. Questions for Moorish Americans. I think how it is the questionnaire. You can put Moorish questionnaire, Moorish questionnaire, questions for Moorish children. You can even put 101 in your search engine. This, and when he said key, talking about the numbers of this questionnaire, so you can go online, you can look it up, and you're able to reference what he's saying. On you, Shamil.
Islam. And also, we have the key 37, which says, did the angel give to the child that was called Jesus a holy name? Yes, but it cannot be used by those who are slave to sin. Now, I wanted to make this important point because, there's critics who always say, well, Jesus is not his real name, etc., etc. As if Moorish American Muslims, those who are in the Moorish Science Temple, don't deal with science and things on a higher level. They'll go into a lot of things, but if you go into the inside cover of the Holy Quran and Moorish Science Temple of America, it clearly says, know thyself and Allah, the genealogy of quote unquote Jesus. Jesus is in quotation marks. So that was a key that the Prophet put in reference to what we're dealing with. So to go into your question there, we know that according to the story that this was around 2,000 years ago, as my brother Zachary Grimion explained. Now, what did he teach? That's the key thing. Let's go to key 46. What did Jesus say that would make you free? Truth. What is true? Truth is ought. What is ought? Ought is Allah. Right? So we know that truth cannot change, nor can it pass away. Now, we're dealing with the science of what he actually brought. And we're dealing with the fact that what we call our religion is Islamism, which is an old time religion. See, that's what people are not understanding. It's not dealing with the 1400, 1500 year old religion, or what they call that. It clearly states in the Holy Quran of Mecca was perfected for you by Muhammad. You're dealing with something that goes way beyond that because you're dealing with the principles. You follow what I'm saying? Which is represented by our Moorish flag with the 5 points: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So we're dealing with something that was ancient and further than that. And I just want to just go on into something. If you go to actually the 17th chapter of the Moorish Holy Quran, specifically the 44th verse, and this is supposed to be Jesus speaking. He says, you know that all my life was one great drama for the sons of men. Now the key word in that is drama. If you just look up the word drama, you know that a drama is an enactment. It is a presentation that has an underlying message. Now, for those who criticize and say, well, that's not real, our stuff, if you go to ancient Kemet, everything's on the wall, etc., etc. Well, all these stories, have an underlying message. If you know about archetypes and things of that nature, this is what Prophet Noble Drew Ali was teaching us, that what Jesus taught as he was called Jesus, right, was love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. That's what you're dealing with. It was a principle. It didn't have a name per se. People named it afterwards. You follow? People named it Christianity. That's why I went back to the foundation of Christianity in chapter 46. You follow? He didn't even in your biblios, you won't find where he called any of his disciples Christians. He don't call them Christians. They're not called Christians until Antioch, after he supposedly, he died on the cross and resurrected, that whole story. After that, then they were called Christians in Antioch. You follow? They said in the book of John, if you go there, they said we found the Messiah as being interpreted to Christ. So these different things let you know keys about the archetype of a savior of humanity. You follow? This is what the prophet explained to us in that article in our Moorish literature about the savior of humanity, which I can go into, but I don't want to be long-winded. I'm going to yield the floor at this time. Islam.
So Islam, my brother. So basically, what you're saying is that let me see. Let me get it together. The person that we refer to as Jesus was actually called Jesus, but actually was known by another name. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. And also, I want to say this. That is in our Moorish questionnaire. And I'm putting emphasis on this because a brother made a statement that y'all still believe in Jesus. Y'all believe in that Jesus story. Y'all just Jesus, as if Jesus is a bad thing. When you follow the story of Jesus, first of all, let's just say, yes, we believe Jesus exists, but under a different name, not the name Jesus. Let's be clear, there's a historical person that literally lived. So we can get that out the way now. Now what we're going to do is we're going to build up from there. Yes, he exists. He existed, sir. He existed. Without a doubt. Yet his name 2,000 years ago or beyond was not Jesus. It could not have been Jesus. And we'll get into that later. So, Brother Remy R.L., so we established that, okay, Jesus exists. Now, how did the mix-up, if you will, come about that we begin to refer to Yeshua as Jesus? How did that happen?
Okay, beloved brother. I think I hear your question, but I wanna deal with this, beloved brother. And follow up on what my brother was saying. If you go to the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and I'm gonna just cut through the chase. I'm gonna get to the historicity of Jesus, but I want to first make reference to the literature. If you go to chapter 6 of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, because I already know what everybody's going to say, right? They going to say, oh, y'all reading from y'all book, that don't prove nothing. But I'm going to the book because I want to make a point. So if you go to chapter 6, verse 4, and it says, and when he asked who Jesus was, this is referring to a prince from India who came into Palestine and saw Jesus distributing his wisdom. And as a matter of fact, you can look this up online. It was a trip that the prime minister made who went to Israel, and he acknowledged the fact that Israel and India has a long relationship with each other over thousands and thousands of years. I think this was a couple of years ago when they went over there and they talked about the relationship between ancient India and ancient Israel. But I just wanted to point that out. But if we go back to this 4th verse, it says, when he asked who Jesus was, from whence he came, what he was, Chief Hillel said, we call this one the day star from on high. Now, at that point, I want to mention the part that I want to point out about that was who was Chief Hillel. A lot of people don't know who this Chief Hillel was, but this Chief Hillel was a rabbi. Going back to what I was saying earlier when we first started the program about Jesus not being found because he wasn't born in that particular time period that everyone is looking for him for. Because if you look at who this Chief Hillel was, and this Chief Hillel was contemporaneous with Jesus in the circle 7, this Chief Hillel was a rabbi where we get what is called the Golden Rule from. And this rabbi lived somewhere approximately between 100 BC and I can't remember, but I think it's like 4 or 5 or 6 AD. So this Chief Hillel, which is a historical figure that nobody can deny actually really exists, was contemporaneous with Jesus in the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. So that puts our Jesus, or the brother that Yehoshua that we call Jesus, or Jehoshua, as they'll say in English, in the same time period with Hillel, according to the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Where am I going with this? Here we go. Now, we did already establish the time period. Jesus was contemporaneous in our Quran with this Chief Hillel. And if you want to know who this person is, look him up. He was the chief master teacher, rabbi at that time.
And brothers,
now,
real quick, brother.
Yes.
Tell the people how you spell it so they can reference it. Please have your pen, people. Don't look at this lady and talking about, well, you ain't give no references. The brother's giving you the information, brother. Spell it for the people that they may research this, please.
Oh, right. So basically, we spell Hillel, H-I-L-L. I'm sorry, I apologize. Give me 1 second. H-I-L-L-E-L.
Islam.
And this was a chief rabbi who basically a lot of the things that we call the golden rule, those things that we call the golden rule, if you look it up, this individual was the person that made up these different sayings that you hear people say. Like, for example, things like do unto others if you would have them do unto you, and so on and so forth. These different golden rule sayings come from Chief Hillel. So he was a historical figure in BC, or before the Common Era, or as the Christians would say, before Christ. Now, with that being said, let's deal with this. When you go into records of Gerald Massey, which really a lot of this stuff has its origin, which Christ. And the brother pointed this out as well. When you're talking about Christ and you're talking about Jesus, you're talking about two different separate things. And basically, for all intents and purposes, Jesus was the personality, and the Christ was the degree that was bestowed or put on the brother. But let's go to the historical records, because what they want to know is whether Jesus was real or not. And the only thing that you have to do is go to the extra biblical sources. Now, what that means is outside of the Bible, if you will. Now, if you go outside of the Bible, basically what we have, and I'm going to read from this record, we have an individual that is written of in the Talmud, outside the Bible. And they testified that, and y'all going to be surprised, because a lot of this in the Talmud lines up with what we say about Brother Jesus in the Holy Quran, the Moorish Science Temple of America. I don't want to be too long-winded, so I'm going to just get it in right quick. I'm going to read from this record. Basically, Jesus mentioned in the Talmud, as Jehoshua or Yehoshua, just like what Brother Taharka was saying. So, I'm going to read this demonstration real quick. This Gerald Massey that's saying this, the major mythicist of the whole Christ degree in all of his writings. He said this, and this is the chapter entitled the mythical Christ versus the historical Jesus. And he says the personal existence of Jesus as Joshua ben Pandera can be established beyond a doubt. One account affirms that, according to a genuine Jewish tradition, that man, who is not to be named, was a disciple of Jehoshua ben Parachia. It also says he was born in the 4th year of the reign of the Jewish king Alexander Jannaeus, notwithstanding the assertions of his followers that he was born under the reign of Herod. That would be more than a century earlier than the date of the birth of the Jesus of the Gospels. Going back to what I was saying about the time period, and that the Jesus that we talking about, Brother Jehoshua, lived before the Common Era. Now, but it can be shown further that Jehoshua ben Pandira may have been born considerably earlier than the year 102 BC, although the point is not of consequence here, is what he's saying. Now, with that being said, I don't want to take up too much of the time, but I'm just making the point that this record right here, Gerald Massey's lecture, talk about the same person that we talk about in our Quran that we refer to as Jehoshua. It also exists in history and is also recorded in the other Jewish records, if you will. Now, let me make this point. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, brother. Does not the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America teach that our brother Jesus or Jehoshua went into Egypt to study? And he was initiated into the schools, am I right or wrong?
Absolutely.
So our teachings teach that this Jesus went to study. Now, if you go back to the Talmud that's talking about this this Yehoshua, if you will, who was executed by the Romans, that Talmud will tell you that this same Jehoshua went into Egypt and he learned the arts and sciences of healing people and came back to Jerusalem, if you will, or Israel, and began healing people and teaching the same sciences of healing, or what they call magic, so on and so forth, from Egypt into Israel. So we have a correspondence of the teachings in our Holy Quran of the Moorish Temple of America lining up with the tradition of the Talmud that teaches that brother Jesus was schooled in Egypt and went back to his people to liberate them from the pale-skinned nations of Europe. I'm sorry for being so long.
No, brother, it's fine, brother, because I've noticed that when you're talking, you actually giving references, and that's what we want to lean towards. We want to lean towards, as Brother Shemil was doing. He was citing the Holy Quran of Moorish Science Temple of America. You was citing the literature, the books. You were holding up books, and that's what we want to do. We want to be able to give people something to point to. So as long as you are citing where you getting it from, I mean, go ahead, let it go in. Brother Shemil, I'm gonna be with you in 1 second. I want to first let my brother that just stepped in the chat room introduce himself, and then I'm gonna let him have the floor for a second, and I'm gonna come right back to you, Shemil. So my brother Ali Bey, let the people know who you are, where you're from, and then I'm gonna ask you a question so you can expound upon this subject, expound on this subject a little bit, and then I'll move back to Shemil. So the floor is yours, brother.
Islam, give rise giving praise to Allah and its holy and divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Honest to you, brothers, I'm just logging on, so I really missed most of what you were saying as I was listening to the brother Callum L's show where he's interviewing brother Lord Abba. Now, just a change of direction real quick, because this is very important. And then I'm going to jump off because I don't want to break y'all flow. But I just wanted to say that there was a brother who contacted the woman Stephanie Daly, who was one of the sources that Chaka was citing with his Allah claim. And the person asked this woman, did she ever make, or he let her know that someone is using her material to make the claim that the Allah of Sumer is the same as the Allah of Arabia. And he was asking her if she could help him out in clarifying this matter. And she responded back and told him, I never made such a claim. She said, I never. This is Stephanie Daly. Now, this is a woman who Chaka cited as one of his main sources in his presentation on the oldest reference to Allah. He uses her as one of his primary sources. And the woman actually wrote back, and the brother was able to post her response. And she's saying in her response, she never made the claim that Allah of Arabia is the same as the Allah of Sumer.
Well, brother Ali, before you go, brother, I think it's already clear, man, that we have brothers that's just putting things together to try to defend their viewpoint. I mean, you know, I mean, when I chop that video up and down, and to make it so that we can respond to it, man, it tore me up. because none of it made any sense. It looked good for a show,
Right.
but none of it made any sense. But Ali, don't go nowhere yet, brother. Well, I need one more thing from you, brother.
Okay.
What do you think about those brothers on the other side of the platform, if you will, making the claim that Jesus does not exist, and that, hold up, that we are some type of cotton-picking slave-type brothers who worshiping man in the form of God, or God in the form of man, have you named Jesus, and that we're lost and misguided. Can you speak to that before you go?
Wow. Well,
what do you think about it? Just your thoughts. No date or nothing. Just your thoughts.
Well, I mean, their thoughts are their thoughts on it. What's interesting about it is, and this is something that we were speaking about earlier, myself and Brother Grimion L. were talking about the very fact that they have a problem with Jesus based on the idea that Jesus didn't exist, one, or two, that this was some sort of white man's concoction. If he was someone who actually existed, he was some kind of a white man, because the Europeans are saying this is what he was. But generally, they're basing this on this is a mythical character, it's a concoction or contrivance of Europeans, and that somehow we're slaves for believing in this particular thing. At the same time, these same people who are trying to say that we're believing in some mythology will talk to you about Ma'at. They will talk to you about Amun-Re. They will talk to you about Atum. They will talk to you about all of these Egyptian deities that are myths that they have reverence for, that were not real people. You understand what I'm saying? But at the same time, pretend like they have a problem with the Jesus who they're saying was not a real person. So I just find it very hypocritical in general. So really, that's my position on that.
Islam. Brother, thank you, my brother. Thank you. Brother Shamil, question for you. The historical Jesus, according to you, have you ever seen, and this goes in line of my brother Grimion L answer, have you ever seen any outside sources besides the Bible, most importantly the Bible, as well as our source, the Holy Quran of the Moorish Temple of America?
Islam, indeed. But before I do that, Brother Tahaka Bey, can I add on to what Brother Ali Bey just mentioned?
Absolutely. The floor is yours, my brother.
Islam. So we're gonna address that elephant in the room pertaining to those critics. And for me, like, it's not a hatred. I don't, it's no ill intent, to those who are sincere in dealing with that ideology pertaining to ancient Kemet. But as the brother Ali Bey mentioned about, they attack Moors on the premise or the idea that we somehow worship or identify with something that's a myth. So if you're going to use that as the basis, then you have to also address, in your paradigm, the Osiris story. They'll say it's Asar, Asaru, but that whole story, when you look at it, about his brother Satuk killing him, cutting him up into 14 pieces, throwing the body in the river, and his wife Aset retrieving all the body parts except the penis that was swallowed up by a fish. They put the body together, and then a fake phallus.
Hold on. I'm sorry, Brother Shimil. I've heard this story tons of times, but it always seems to jump out to me when we compare, and I'm sorry for cutting y'all, when we compare the two stories. The story of Jesus, whether it's turning water to wine, walking on water, and then that part right there with the genitalia demonstration. How these brothers fall for that one or go for that one and leave it up to interpretation. But this one is so far-fetched, and they can't even break that down. But brother, can you repeat that story? And what is that story relating to real quick? The story is of who and what in the short version of what you just said. Repeat that, brother, so the people can hear that and take notes.
Got you.
Whoa.
Got you. So this is the story in a nutshell. Asar has a brother, Satuk, and they're enemies of each other. Satuk invites Asar to a feast, set him up, kill him, chop his body up into 14 pieces, throw the pieces of the body into the river. Asar's wife attempts to retrieve the pieces of the body, finds all of the pieces except the phallus symbol, the penis, which is swallowed up by a fish. And then somehow miraculously put the pieces together, attach a fake phallus symbol to Asar, and with that she's able to conceive of a child called Haru through that. And that's what you want us to accept. But we're silly and stupid and religious for saying that there was a Jesus of 2,000 years ago. Now they'll say, well, the natural response would be like, well, I ain't stupid. I know that that's symbolic. That deals with symbolism and allegory. Well, if you're going to take that approach, what makes you think that Moors, this is Moor Science Temple, that we don't deal in things with symbolism and allegory?
Islam.
You follow?
That's right.
So it's very disingenuous to have that approach when you're dealing with Moors, because we all know that there's 3 steps. We talked about the belief. You mentioned, Brother Tahaka Bey, about they say you believe. Well, we know according to chapter 7, verse 27, salvation is a ladder reaching from the heart of men to the heart of Allah. It has 3 steps. Belief is first. This is what man thinks perhaps is truth, and faith is next. This is what man knows is truth. Fruition is the last. And this is man himself. So we deal with steps as far as the information that we teaching. And we're reaching our people in a manner where they can understand. See, the prophet was smart. He knew the condition that his people were in. So you don't you don't give a person who has a kindergarten mind college information, right? And at the same time, you'll never hear a college professor criticize a kindergarten teacher for teaching kindergarten knowledge to those who need it. So I just want to use that point. But to go to the aspect of the outside references, to answer your question, brother, we do have several references. One, we acknowledge first and foremost that, as Brother Zachary Grimion was mentioning about the story of the historical Jesus, that Jesus was a Nazarene. So when you deal with the case of the Nazarene, you got to go to the Dead Sea Scrolls. Follow, which were found in the caves of Qumran in 1947. There's a real scrolls that exist that speak on the Essenes, and the Essenes were broken down into groups. There's also another writing called the Panarion, which is Greek for medicine chest. That was written by a man named Epiphanius, who was a monk in Egypt, and it describes about the Nazarenes, saying that they were Jews by nationality, and it also broke down the sects of them. I'm just going to read this quick quote. It said, after this Nazarene sect, in turn, comes another closely connected with them, called the Oceans. These are Jews like the former, originally from the Nabatea, Iturea, Moabitis, and Aurelius. Now, Moabitis, that's a Greek derivative of Moabite, and that is the Panarian. For those who need to code, the Panarian of Epiphanius of Salamis, Book 1. You can look that up. The translation by Frank Williams, published in 1987. And of course, we got other records. We talk about Jesus in India and things of that nature. Those are other records that you can find. So they are numerous outside sources pertaining to the historical Jesus, Islam.
Islam, family. Listen, I hope y'all are taking notes. I just put in the chat. Take notes, take notes, take notes. Because I'm telling you, them hoteppers be coming back on my line after this show is done. So I'm gonna keep saying taking notes because them hoteppers be something. They hit me all this week. Y'all didn't respond. Y'all didn't respond because I guess they didn't see a PowerPoint or they did not see a piece of paper held up or a book held up, or I don't know what they was listening to, but because they did not see the PowerPoint or whatever the case, they felt as though that wasn't an adequate response. But that was the hoteppers. Mass majority of the watchers, the viewers, enjoyed the show. So what I want y'all to do is please take notes. And with no further ado, my other brother has entered the chat. And this is my brother, very dear to me, brother. I got some questions for this brother, but this is my brother, Lasana Tunica Ill. I want him to introduce himself to you, and then I'm going to give him the floor for a minute with a question that I have for him. Islam.
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 Yeah, our first rise giving all praise due to Allah, the causeless cause and the rootless root from which all things have grown. I give high honors to his holy and divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. High honors to the forerunner, Marcus Mosiah Garvey. High honors to all the Moors, past leadership, the supreme staff, the grand staff, local temples, all things pertaining to Islam. What you want to know, Mo? I want to congratulate my brothers, for providing those sources.
Yes.
So that ones can follow up, you know what I'm saying? Because our critics naturally assume that religious people are unlearned, you know what I'm saying? Because, a lot of these Moors, they true daddy C.M. Bay, and C.M. Bay said that religion was for people who can't read. So a lot of the Moors be leaning to that type of perspective. And as far as those outside of the movement, they try to do a microwave read over of our literature and think they got it. You know what I'm saying?
Islam.
And they draw all kind of erroneous conclusions because if they followed the footsteps of everything simply mentioned in the book, they wouldn't make such ludicrous statements in relationship to the book.
Islam. So, brothers, just to bring you up to speed a little bit, we have established that Jesus of 2,000 years ago indeed exists. No, that name Jesus was not the name of 2,000 years ago. We established that,
Yes,
the brother Shemel beautifully pointed out was the child called Jesus, given a holy name. He gave that key out, which was excellent. That we understand that he was called. Let me stop now. Check your Moorish questionnaire. I'm not gonna keep repeating myself. Anyway, but brother Grimion Ill, he gave us a bunch of references of that there's proof that Chief Hillel, which is an actual historical person, made contact, just as it said in our Moorish Quran. And Chief Hillel can be looked up, he can be Googled, and actually made contact. And now we're where we at now. So the question, brother Ali Bey, he addressed the common sense of the brothers on the other side of this platform that try to criticize us, as you say, religious people, as you say, those brothers say about religious people. And he addressed that. So what I want to ask you is, how is it that this story, because we're going to heat up a little bit. We're going to heat up. Because I don't want nobody to get away and say, y'all ain't touch this, y'all ain't touch that. But they're going to do that anyway. But how is it that this story of Jesus is almost entered in every society? Almost literally exact.
Yes, sir.
If we say Jesus was of Palestine, but it enters in every society as if under another name sometimes. How is
Indeed.
No.
And that's a good point you brought up there, brother, brother Tahako Bey, that you know, my brother's been doing an excellent demonstration of providing sources for the historical Jesus. But what I wanted to say is that our critics operate from the perspective that we just found out about Jesus when the European taught us Jesus on the plantation. That's a common narrative, and it's a very faulty narrative. And I make the point by saying this: it's been determined that from the northwestern shores and the western shores of Africa, from which many of our forefathers was brought across in the Atlantic slave trade, a significant percentage of those brought over were Muslims from the Senegambia, Senegal, other regions in West Africa. That's well been established. You want to reference, you can go to Dr. Rudolph Ware, The Walking Quran. Rudolph Ware, The Walking Quran. Because a lot of these brothers really deny or are very ignorant of the deep Islamic tradition and history in West Africa. Now, having said that, the Holy Quran of Mecca teaches about Jesus. So those Moors and Muslims who were brought over, they already knew about Jesus, and they didn't get it from no King James Version. They didn't get it from no Europeans. Because this particular book here, Servants of Allah, Sylviane Joe, she makes it clear that all over West Africa, they had their own books on Isa, what Jesus' name in Arabic. They had their own Pentateuchs. They had their own Gospels and Psalms, and that didn't have anything to do with the King James Version. They weren't even in English, right? So where did those traditions come from? They did not come from the Europeans. It came through the Islamic network that the Islamic ones had ancient science. Now, when we talk about Egypt, briefly, I want to mention a group called the Copts, the Coptic Christians, right? Because in our Holy Quran, we talk when the Prophet talked about the beginning of Christianity, he's specifically referring to the Nicene Council when Rome established Christianity as the state religion. But we know there were other groups that followed the teachings of Jesus prior to that. And one of those groups was the Copts, C-O-P-T-S, or Coptics, right? And I want to read a couple of things with our good sister Dana Marnici when she cited particular sources on our board, the Ali's Men board, in reference to the Copts. And I'm doing this for a reason. She says, quote, when colonists went into North Africa and the Near East, they put people that looked like them in power. As for the so-called Copts, these people are barely related to early Copts, let alone ancient Egyptians. Now she's talking about the modern Copts or not the ancient Copts, right? These people are rarely related. Okay, according to Bernard Lewis's book, Race and Slavery in the Middle East, page 124, Ibn Qutayba, 9th century, wrote of various races of blacks: Nubians, Zani, Quran, Zagawa, Ethiopians, Copts, and Berbers. According to all Syrian and Persian medieval texts, Copts were a black-skinned people with crinkly hair. There were many Byzantine Christians in Egypt, but Copts, or the Kibul, were considered the black-skinned indigenes in early Syria, Arab, and Persian texts. These descriptions went on until the 14th century. The Copts were originally defined ethnically, racially by their black and crinkly hair. right? The article, The Crinkly-Haired People, The Crinkly-Haired People of the Earth by Hussein Omar on the early description of the Copts. The Crinkly-Haired People of the Black Earth by Hussein Omar. So-called modern Copts have a lot of Greek, Turkish, and European blood. Well, unlike the medieval Hubli or early Copts, often portrayed the Hebrews and Jesus as a near black-brown in their earliest artwork. So here's a North African, dark olive hued, or what ones would say black-skinned, Egyptians no less, Coptic Christians who have their own traditions of Jesus and their own writings about Jesus as well, which there's some irony in there because these ones claim themselves to be followers of Kemet, etc., but they haven't made the connection with the Copts or Coptics who preserved some of the Egyptian wisdom through this early quote-unquote Christianity thing.
Yes, sir.
Islam.
Continuing on.
That's right.
She says that the 16th century Al-Magrizi, who lived in Egypt, mentioned that the foreign Byzantine Greek Christians in Egypt hated the Copts and other black populations in Egypt. He wrote, quote, "Know that the land of Egypt, when the Mussulmans entered it," talking about the Muslims, "was full of Christians, but divided among themselves in two sects, both as to race and to religion. The one part was made up of men about the court and public affairs, all Greek, from among the soldiers of Constantinople. Their views as well as their religion were all for them. Melekite and their number was above the 300,000, all Greeks." Now she says the other portion, the other sect, was the whole people of Egypt, who were the Qibit, and it's Qibt, and were of mixed descent, among whom one could not distinguish a Copt from Abyssinian, Nubian, or Israelite. But between these and the Melkite or ruling population, marriages were not allowed for mutual hatred of each other, often carried to murders on either side. So you have these dark olive hue Coptics and these Greek Christians in Egypt banging. And that reference is A Short History of the Copts and Their Church, 1873. Translated by D. Nutt, D.Nutt. And then she says, of course, most Christians today in Egypt call themselves Copts, but in the early medieval period, a Copt was a man with black skin and crinkly hair, as mentioned by Ibn Ishaq and others. Islam?
Islam.
So I'm on a quick narrative. Follow me now.
Brother,
Yeah.
hold
Yes,
up what you're reading one more time, in case some people, because I see people join in. Hold up what you're reading one more time and carry on. And let people know what you're reading from.
Well, that's why I'm reading from I ain't hip on how to screen share. That's why I was reading the references 2 and 3 times.
Yeah. And because I see people get on, and we want to make sure. This is the reason why I do this, brother son. I'm learning this as I go along, and I watch a lot of these things. I read the people post show, and they write this stuff. They would. I'm telling you, they would put everything they own to say we didn't give no reference. After 5 or 6 times in the same video, that the reference is there, but they will keep on. So I'm trying not to give them no room to run. The only thing they should be running to do is pick up a pen and a piece of paper, take some notes, so they can be right up to speed what we're talking about. But back to you, my brother.
Islam, and yeah, true indeed, more, and that's why I quoted the references at least 3 to 4 times. And if they want to follow up on that, they can go to the sisters' blog talk, which is afroasiatic.com, right? And she goes in very exhaustively on these sources as well, not to mention the myriad of tribes in West Africa who claim descent from the ancient Canaanites. But we're not going to go there. So continuing on, we were talking about these dark-skinned Copts who in Egypt, no less, right? So one thing these Kemites or Hoteps don't realize is the only way they get access to the Egyptian knowledge for a while, because it was preserved and translated not only through some of these Copts, but of course the Moors, as George G.M. James demonstrated, right? So you had the Moors who preserved it, translated it into Arabic, took it into Europe. It was eventually translated into European languages. Later Europeans, Egyptologists or whatever, wrote it in those languages, and that's how we got it. You know what I'm saying? And through groups via the Somerset Society, who was one of the earliest groups I know of in Atlanta, who was bringing the Kemetic degrees. And again, Dr. York witnessing that in Atlanta, he then began to publish on those degrees as well, following the Somerset Society. So let's keep it moving. Here's another brother scholar, Brother Muata Ashby, Muata Abaya Ashby, and I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with him. And this book is called The Mystical Journey from Jesus to Christ. Now, the question is, why would that brother post a book about the mystical journey from Jesus to Christ? What's the purpose? Why would he do that, right? Because our critic was like, you taking the people back to Jesus. And he had some criticism of the prophet, saying these lessons for those who love Jesus. So this is the same reason this brother prepared this, because he know there are those who love Jesus, right? So to appeal to those people who love Jesus and to impart some information to them via he who they love, but giving them some deeper insight into who the brother Jesus was, right? So this brother says that, I'm going to quote from like page 37. He says that, excuse me, 26. He says, having fascinated scholars ever since the discovery in 1945, the 52 Gnostic texts found at Nag Hammadi, Egypt, constitute an extremely important discovery relating to the understanding of early Christianity. Nag Hammadi is a modern name for a town which is located in east central Egypt and 48 kilometers south of Kina. These texts, which date back to the time of the biblical Jesus, these texts that date back to the time of the biblical Jesus have redefined the manner in which the social climate and history during the time of Jesus are being viewed. Up to the time of their discovery, it was known that many sects of Christian groups existed. And when we say Christian groups, we mean different followers of Jesus who had different kind of interpretations of what he taught. But these groups were, in effect, Hebrew or quote-unquote Jewish groups. Islam? Include Jesus. These groups were considered to be outcasts and heretics by the Orthodox Roman Catholic groups. It was also known that many councils of the Roman Catholic bishops had altered, edited, and even omitted from the Bible many existing scriptures of the time claimed to be inspired by Jesus. By the time the Roman Catholic Church had recompiled and canonized its scriptures, which would make up the present-day Christian Bible, these works had undergone many revisions and changes, talking about these original Gnostic works. The term Gnostic is derived from the Greek meaning Gnostikos, meaning one who knows, right? Which is based on the word for knowledge, gnosis. In Gnostic Christianity, Jesus Christ is only the revealer of knowledge. Gnosis means knowledge, gained from the source, referring to Christhood itself as the ultimate source. The Gnostic form of knowledge relates to having experience of the divine as opposed to simply having information about the divine from scriptures, right? And that ties into what my brother demonstrated with the 3 levels of belief, knowledge, and fruition. So we see that the Moorish Science Temple current of information and knowledge as it relates to Jesus is consistent with these ancient dark-skinned Copts in Egypt who had their own scriptures of Jesus that they didn't get from no King James Version or Europe in any form. Islam?
Islam.
Right? Finally, the historical Jesus. My brother brought up, Shamir mentioned the Dead Sea Scrolls, and I heard one of the brothers like, oh, don't bring up the Dead Sea Scrolls as if they don't have any legitimacy. But you can actually view those online, the fragments, etc. They're up digitally, in digital libraries online, so you can view those. And there are some certain stories in there that scholars argue whether or not it's referring to Jesus. But and one book that goes in some detail, it's called The Hiram Key. Very interesting book. Pharaohs, Freemasons, and Discovery of the Secret Scrolls of Jesus. And that's by Christopher Knight and Robert Lomax. And they provide some commentary on some of the Dead Sea Scrolls in there. And when you talk about our key number 28, why did Allah send Jesus to this earth? To save the Israelites from the iron hand oppression of the pale-skinned nations of Europe who were governing a portion of Palestine at that time. Now, it's clear that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali didn't bring us no European, blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus, right? That's obvious. Now, having said that, the way he described Jesus' mission has parallels to this messianic movement that are spoken of in the Dead Sea Scrolls. That Jesus, and they break this down in the hierarchy, that in all likelihood it was a messianic military. When you say you came to free them from the iron hand oppression, it was a military aspect of Jesus' movement. And they go into the various details and interpreting scriptures that you've seen very differently, and place this brother as the head of a messianic movement to free his people from the yoke of the Roman law, and he was plotting that militarily. So our Jesus is not the Jesus. I don't know this Jesus y'all talking about. And y'all obviously don't know the one we talking about. Islam.
Islam. And with no further ado, one of my big brothers stepped into the chat room. Y'all know him well. I'm gonna let him introduce himself to the people real quick, and then I got a question for him to hit real quick, and then we gonna go down the line with some real tough questions, and then we're gonna wrap it up. We're gonna be short and sweet. My brother, the floor is yours. You know who you are. Let the people know who you are, and then I got a question for you, my brother.
Islam.
Islam, brother.
Yeah, I want to first rise and give praise to Allah, the one God. Allah is one. I want to give honors to his last prophet in these days and times, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America, love made manifest so that men can comprehend. I want to give honors to the fact that that man, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, in science is Jesus come again. I want to give honors to the fact that that man was the Egyptian adept. I want to give honors to the Moorish Science Temple of America members. I want to give honors to Ali's men, my comrades online, and those that are not. I want to give honors to the host of Moorish World, Brother Talker Bay, and honors to all the viewers. Islam.
Islam. So, brother, you came right in the right time. We established that Jesus actually did exist. We also established, and I don't want to go over it too much, but we also established that that he did not exist under the term Jesus, under the name Jesus, and so beautifully all the brothers touched on it. But I really like the way that Shemil jumped out, and then Gramillion Ill grabbed it, and then everybody grabbed it and tied it together. But Shemil jumped out there with did the angel give to the child called Jesus, and put emphasis on called. As reference to our questionnaire. Oh, right. Man, and then Gramillion Ill came and knocked it out the park, and then Tunica Hill ran it home, and my brother Ali Bey talked about the naysayers on that other side of Moorish world, that other platform. But nevertheless, brother, I gotta ask you the question. Although we established that, and we had some outside sources, and I hope people took note. Outside sources that this story, Brother Grimial, he refers to, and you just seen, Brother Lasana, his references. Brother Grimial, he referred to. I like the reference of Hillel, Chief Hillel. And you can find him in history. And I've done my research way before this. But this dialogue, and I love it. But nevertheless, for you, my brother,
yes, sir.
You know the for the lack of a better term, the Hoteppers. They say, well, we got bones, we got mummies. Y'all don't have nothing. We got mummies, bones, and y'all don't have nothing.
Right.
How do you address now? My thing is the wisdom of the story confirms the divinity of it.
Right.
However, we have what they say in the Bible, the doubting Thomas. They got to touch the flesh.
Right.
How do you deal with those who say, I got it, I get it? Where is the bones, the evidence, when it relates to Jesus?
Yes, sir. Well, first and foremost, their great-great-grandfathers and great-great-grandmothers existed without a doubt or contradiction. I doubt all of them can find bones for their great-great-grandfathers and grandmothers. So that's not evidence. The fact that they can't find a body or the fact that no one has revealed a body is not proof. So, they need to recalibrate what they call proof or evidence, saying, show me the body. I mean, that's grade school. That's grade school. Because we all got great-great-grandfathers and great-great-grandmothers and great-great-great-grandfathers. You ain't finding any bones. I don't believe you. You know what I'm saying? So, we can dismiss with that one already. That's not even a scholarly question. That's one of common sense. And the gift of common sense, comes from Allah Himself. Whatever you want to call Him, we call Him Allah. It comes from Him. So if you ain't using it, you're doing your Creator a disservice. So that's why I'll say that. But then there were a number of other points that my brothers hit on. I heard a little bit of it on the drive back to the house. Apologize for being late. Things, we have jobs.
Stop.
But anyway, the crux of the entire Jesus issue falls on this one issue, and my brothers have already dealt with it. The historical Jesus, as opposed to the one that was created in 322 AD in Nicaea. That is the real issue here. The problem with a lot of the naysayers is that whether they are ready to admit it or not, they are still infected by the European psychology as it relates to the name Jesus. What our prophet did, and I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself, what he did by giving us what he gave us is that he performed an exorcism on that psychology. He gave you back your brother minus the things that they added, flipped, switched, and bounced to him so that his ideal will work in their favor in your mind. That's what he did. He took it out. So we don't, on one end, have to accept the Nicene Council version of Jesus of Roman Catholicism and in all of its variations, including the Protestant movement's variation of Roman Catholicism's ideal of Jesus. But we also don't have to throw the brother out with the bathwater or the baby out with the bathwater as well. So we don't get rid of our brother Jesus. Now, here's why that's significant, and I'll be very brief. With all the scholars, and I'm talking about real scholars. I'll name a couple of them that are in my own personal notes. There's James Robinson in the Nag Hammadi Library in English. There's Marginin with The Woman Jesus Loved, Mary Magdalene in the Nag Hammadi Library and related documents. See, these are real sources, people. Michael Meyer with the Nag Hammadi scriptures. I mean, there's a whole bunch of them. Jesus Within Judaism, New Light from Exciting Archaeological Discoveries by John Charlesworth. That's in Doubleday Books. There's a lot. There's a lot. But anyway, my point being, all of the real scholars agree that the real issue is the historical Jesus versus the archetypal Jesus. Just like Asar is an archetype. You see what I'm saying? Heru is an archetype. We know better because we know the mysteries. Why? George G.M. James said in his book, the Moors are the custodians, the recipients, and the custodians of the ancient Egyptian mystery system. Right. So, of course, we know.
Come on.
So we don't call Asar or Set a myth. We don't call him that. We don't call Jesus a myth either because we understand the mystery. And the mystery is that Jesus, the historical individual, was and became the personification of the Christ figure, which is Osiris risen in the Kemetic mysteries. And that's just the bottom line. He personified it. He became the message himself, as our prophet taught us, right? For man to know, man must be what he knows. You see? And that's the fact. So you have to first, to address this issue intelligently, you have to draw the distinction and the separation between the historical Jesus, the Jesus that was created by the European Catholic, or Emperor Constantine in 322 AD, and the archetypal Christ. You have to know the difference between these three. The Nag Hammadi text alone damages, irreparably damages the argument of the whole Jesus did not exist nonsense. It exposes the Roman Catholic or the European cover-up of the historical Jesus.
Brother, can you say that one more time? Because I think the listeners and the viewers have to get that exactly what you just said. Hopefully they writing this stuff down.
Yes, sir. This is a real world mystery we're talking about here. A real world mystery, because like it or not, the Europeans came to world power and world domination through the concocted story that they came up with thanks to Emperor Constantine. That story allowed them to rule the world for the first time in history, like it or not.
Yes.
It's just the truth. You ain't gotta like it, it's just the truth, though. You see what I'm saying? So we're dealing with a real world mystery here. If that story is what allowed them to rule the world for the first time in history, then that's the root of the power. So the prophet was beyond genius to say on page 3, these secret lessons. To give us what he gave us about, come on, man. He put us right in the driver's seat of the actual world mystery that drives world affairs, man. Don't need to figure it out. Now, let me continue to repeat what I had said. The historical Jesus is not the same as the Jesus created in 322 AD, which is the one that infects the minds of most people, including the Hoteppers. And the archetypal Jesus, or Christ, the Christ principle, which is timeless. Those are three different things, and to address this thing intelligently, you have to understand that fact. Now, like I said, the Nag Hammadi text, a lot of the apocryphal books that were not included by the Roman Catholic Church in the Bible for a reason. The reason was they were suppressing and covering up the Gnostic teaching. By the way, that was a third power or position or group of power in Palestine at that time. In the Bible, you hear about the Pharisees and the Sadducees. You don't hear about the Essenes. They were Gnostics, and that's who Jesus belonged to. He belonged to that group. So what we have is Roman Catholic suppression of that knowledge. You understand? Right. That's why this is important. They suppress that knowledge and are suppressing it to this day. It was a Roman Catholic European cover-up of the historical Jesus and the suppression of the Gnostic teaching, which reveals it. Now, that being said, it's kept somewhere. Where? Secret societies, the secret organizations know this very well. So think about it. They got our people, shout out to the Hoteppers, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, throwing our brother out with the bathwater who held the keys, right? Our brother Jesus, the historical Jesus, and the archetypal Christ, which is the core of the Egyptian mysteries. The archetypal Christ, let me say it again, is the core of the ancient Kemetic mystery system. Jesus is important in the world, whether you like it or not, because he personified and exemplified that Christ principle. That prophetic principle. He personified it. You see? But that being said, the secret societies know this. They keep these secrets away from the outside world. That's just what they do. But you've had a couple of them, as it says in Revelations, the earth started to give up her secrets. This gentleman right here, by the name of Lawrence Gardner, historiographer royale for the Dragon Court of the Knights Templar. Not Knights Templar degree Freemasonry, the actual organization Knights Templar, who was in a bitter, centuries-old battle with the Roman Catholic Church. There you go. All you got to do when you find out the person doing the cover-up, you find out their adversary, even if you don't like their adversary, you know they're going to tell the truth on the other guy, but it's going to hurt the other guy. Look up this book, Bloodline of the Holy Grail. They keep the records, brother, of the historical Jesus' wife, brothers and sisters, and children. There we go.
Brother, I'm trying to tell you now, I hope y'all getting something out of this. And if you're part of the Moorish Science Temple of America, I think this should inspire you to study more. If you're not a part of the Moorish Science Temple of America, I think this should inspire you to study more. Even if you feel as though that Kemetic science is the way to go, I think this should make and inspire you to study more. See, when all of the poking fun at each other about the pigtail gang and about the Hotepas and the baby with the fez, when all that is gone, we're trying to make a connection from this earth of this physical form, which our spirit is encapsulated in, and connect with the divine Holy Spirit of the Creator, the causeless cause, the rootless root from which all things have sprung, have grown, we call Allah. And with these lessons here, you can set your house in order.
Islam, brother, can I say something real quick?
Yes, sir.
Come on with it.
Brother, the birth, see, when you got our people, it's sad. It's sad when you have our people throwing away our brother Jesus, our brother, simply because they don't really know our brother. They know the bleached, copy. They know the bleached imposter that was given to them by slave master, and that's the only one they know. You see what I'm saying? It's sad because what that is birthright stealing. Or in this case, now we're giving up our birthright for a bowl of soup. That's what's happening. We're giving it up. It's sad. And then what you said about whether, brothers want to go with the Kemetic thing. No, listen. We want to go with the Kemetic demonstration. This is the Kemetic demonstration. Right. And history proves that the Moors are in custody. The Moors are in possession of that very same Kemetic mystery. So shout out to all of our brothers that deal with the Kemetic science. Just teach the lesson. You ain't going to teach the lesson.
Right.
Just dress up as Egyptian god forms. Come on. Teach the lesson. If we're not doing that, then we demonstrate we don't deserve it or we don't know it. Peace.
Brother,
that's a great
Islam.
If I may.
Islam.
That brings me to our point when you claiming Kemet, and we read the 42 negative confessions of Ma'at. We know what it says. I have not done this. I have not done that.
They do.
So these brothers expressing talking about they Kemet, but they so vulgar, demonstrating lower self characteristics while claiming Ma'at. You know what I'm saying? But they rolling under the premise that the people don't read for themselves, that people won't be able to check them in that obvious contradiction. Your own presence contradict what you're saying. Your methodology of how you demonstrate contradict the fact that you are a student of Ma'at. Go ahead, Brother Green.
Islam. So with that being said, brother, man, I just wanted to interject, man. Brother Sharif Bey, knock that demonstration out of the park, man. You really can't come with anything else, other than that. Think about all that knowledge that we dropped on the last show. That's the only thing that the brothers can come up with is y'all didn't prove Jesus, And that's I mean, that's just like asinine. So, with that being said, following up on what Brother Sharif was saying, think about this. The Roman government, or the Europeans, or what Prophet Noble Drew Ali called the pale-skinned nations of Europe, or the Roman Empire, if you will, we can all agree that they already had their own set of religions. They had their own cults in the Roman Empire. Now, I'm just saying this to appeal to the logic of some of our Kemetic brothers, or some of our atheist brothers who say that they don't believe in Jesus. What was so important about Jesus that the Roman Empire had to take and co-opt that whole image, throw out all of their other gods that they were worshiping, co-opt that image, and take Jesus and make a teaching of Jesus that was once illegal, legal under the Roman Empire, under the patronage of Emperor Constantine. Think about the depths of that. Let's just say they had their own gods. Why did it make us worship Frigga, or Rom, or Romulus, all the gods of Europe? Yet they co-opted the image of our brother, and the words, and the teachings, and the legacy of brother Jesus, and they made that the religion of the pale-skinned nations of Europe. And as Sharif Aniel Bey said, they used that to conquer us. So obviously, it is something to this whole Jesus thing that we are missing and that we don't understand. Back to the secret societies. When the brother touched on the Knights Templar topic. Now, I don't want to get too much into this, but the actual founder of the Knights Templar, Hughes de Paynes, was a Moor. He was actually, according to some records, a direct descendant, or somehow tied in to the family of the Prophet Muhammad. And all of these royal families and everything like that, somehow they are all try to line back up into that bloodline of Jesus. That's what the royalty of the English throne, all that stuff, is all of these people trying to tie their bloodline back into Jesus. Now, the Knights Templar was an order that was given a charter, if you will, by the Pope of Rome. Now, these people, these Templars, was actually a fact-finding mission. And when they went into the East, if you will, that some people call the Middle East, they found out a particular truth about Jesus and brought that information back into Europe. What was it that the Knights Templar had that called for the total extermination of their whole brotherhood, to try to even wipe them out of history? What did they learn about Jesus from the Muslims in the East that caused them to be killed? And that goes back into what the brother was saying, that Noble Drew Ali was genius because he brought this same information back to us. Now let's get back to the historicity of Jesus. Now, with that being said, there's also, you can go back to Josephus. And the brother just posted the picture of the book, The Knights Templars of the Middle East, and the connection of Freemasonry all up into this. These secret societies, they know this history. And they also know about Egypt and Assar and Isis, or Set, all of that stuff. But what you all don't realize, the brothers who study Kemet, is that the Jesus story, the Osiris story, the historicity, all of this stuff is connected. In the Moorish Science Temple of America, our information is so adept that we take and we weave all of this stuff together to bring to you a complete story. And that's what Noble Drew Ali was doing. So look up Josephus. Even in Josephus' description, in the writings of Josephus, describes the prophet Jesus, the Nazarene, as a dark-skinned Moor. Now, we could just go on. Brother talked about the Nag Hammadi scrolls. That person in there that they refer to as teacher of righteousness, even though there's some conjecture in this, but they talk about the teacher of righteousness in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and this was none other, according to our understanding, none other than our brother Jesus. So with that being said, brother, I say peace.
All right, we're gonna keep it moving so we can close real quick. But I want my brother Shamil. Shamil, you there?
Islam. I'm here.
Islam, brother. This is a question that I know some people may be interested in because you know our brothers and sisters that subscribe to the Christian faith. They said that they we hear them saying that they're waiting for the return of Jesus, and when the Lord comes, some say we're going to go up into the rapture. I don't want to get into that portion of the theology. But the point that I'm trying to make is that and when will Jesus return? Or has he returned? Will Jesus return? That's the question we need to know.
Islam. Well, to put it short and simple, I'll give the short answer and then I'll expound on it. We know in the Moorish Science Temple of America that Prophet Noble Drew Ali is Jesus come again. And I'm going to expound on that fact. Now, a lot of people like to talk about, well, you know, you Moors, y'all, that Circle 7, that just comes from the Aquarian gospel, etc. Now, but they never ask about the Aquarian. What do you mean Aquarian? We're talking about ages. We measure time by cycle ages. Now, I want to refer to a Moorish literature, Savior of Humanity, because as our brother Sharif Aniel Bey spoke about, there's an underlying theme when you deal with the Christ principle, right? And that's dealing with a savior of humanity. So when we look into that article, it talks about in this electrified age, and it talks about the mad human drama. And we know that this picture is the likeness of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, who was serving humanity, coming as he does with a message for the nations in somewhat the same manner as Jesus did. You follow? We know that in our last chapter, in the end time and the fulfilling of the prophecies, it says the last prophet in these days is Noble Drew Ali. What do you mean by these days? In this age, in this final age, Noble Drew Ali, who was prepared divinely in due time by Allah to redeem men from their sinful ways. So we know in our questionnaire that what is a prophet? A prophet is a thought of Allah manifested in flesh. And in the first chapter, we know that the thoughts of Allah are infinite. So they are not measured up by time. Time never was when man was not. So if you're dealing with the fact that if you're looking for that salvation, that savior of humanity, you have to look at the example as Brother Sharif Aniel Bey talked about, that person who personified the Christ, that Christ principle, who personified in terms of what did they do to save, right?
Yes.
And we know when we look at the works of our prophet, what he did, that is the works. That is it. So you can't get no more realer than that. You can't, you know, if you're looking for something to come out the sky, then I'm sorry. That's just, you know, that's a story. So I can put it in just in that term in and of itself, Islam.
Islam. And as we go towards the close of the show, I gotta let my brother Mathiel introduce himself and say something to the people. And I got a question for my brother, and then we'll do as we normally do. We'll go straight down the line, and then we'll wrap it up. But I got a little surprise for this closing of this show, due to the simple fact is I think that enough information was given on this show that people can look up, research, and they're gonna hit on that chat. I'm telling you, they gonna say a whole bunch of stuff. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna come back and revisit this with a part 2. But with that being said, let my brother Mathiel introduce himself to the people, and then I got a quick question for him, and then we'll start with my brother Lasana Tunagale. Islam, brother.
Islam. I'm Brother Mogden McCoy. Just wanted to come on and chime in, join with my brothers real quick. Like I told you, I've been in the wind. You know, I haven't really had a chance to listen to the show. I'm gonna go back and hit the replay button. But I know, just looking at the cast and the crew, I know y'all been going in. So there's nothing that I could add to it. You know, really, as far as the whole the Jesus story. You know, which is an ancient story, of course, and I mean, we got many histories of Jesus all over the world. I mean, for example, the prophet tells us about, what are some of the great fathers of Jesus? I mean, some of the great forefathers of Jesus. He talks about Abraham, Boaz by Ruth, Jesse, King David, Solomon, Hezekiah, and Joseph by Mary. Well, we start at the beginning with Abraham. When we look at Abraham, when you do the knowledge on Abraham and you do his history, some say that his history comes out of India. So if you go to India, you get all kind of stories about the historical Jesus, about Jesus being in India, about Jesus traveling amongst the sages, about Abraham coming from the Jews actually coming from India as a tribe of Indians who were philosophers who went around teaching. So I mean, it's many, many histories on the true lineage of Jesus. So I mean, for somebody that didn't exist, he sure is a popular person, right?
Well, brother, truth is about one, because we actually, right before I think Brother Sharif came on board, we were talking about, the question was, why is that story of Jesus is in every group of people? Every nation of people got this story of Jesus. And it was, in the short term, is that this degree, as we call the Christ principle, has been personified in all nations. And that's the short version.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, this is the
all generations. I mean, in all peoples, you're going to have that Christ figure, and this just goes to show you that history repeats itself. It's a constantly it's a cycle age, brother. For every cycle age, man, you're gonna have that great Christ-like figure. You're gonna have that great Messiah type figure. It comes for every cycle age. So I mean, the isolationists would have you believe that there's no such thing as things that happen here just happen there by coincidence. They don't believe, they don't believe in cultures intermingling. They don't believe that things repeat, that cycles repeat in different parts of the world. That's what isolationists would have you believe. But we're of the diffusionist mindset. So we know cultures blend. We know our people travel from east to west. We know our people travel all over the world and set their footprint down everywhere. I mean, we got our people over in, oldest Christians, what, Coptic Christians? I mean, over in Ethiopia.
And we did the science, yes, sir.
Yeah, yes. I'm pretty sure somebody didn't touch on that already. I mean,
yes, we went in on them cops, mo.
All right.
Not cops, but
we're not even gonna revisit that. I'm just throwing some things out there. I mean, I didn't come. I told the brother, I just wanted to come and be amongst the brethren, man. I didn't even want to come.
Yes, I got you though. You're not going to escape like that, because I still got something for you. But what I wanted to say is that the reason why I'm glad we pointed out that the Jesus story has been personified almost in every culture is because we got the people that would say, "Oh no, it came from Heru. Oh, that's the Heru story. I'm telling you, that's the Heru story." Then we got the group that say that's the Krishna story. That's the Then we got all of that. But as we say in the Moorish Science Temple of America, if you want this information, you need to find the nearest Moorish Science Temple of America. That we judge time by cycle ages, and that every age of a cycle, a door swings open. And the same thing of the last cycle may happen in this cycle, but through a personification of a different person. It is true. That's why there's pyramids over in South America. There's pyramids in Egypt, and there's pyramids in Chicago. There's pyramids down south. There is
Islam.
Islam, my brother.
I want to camel back on that point really, really quick. Yeah, and the brother just said, Christ is a degree. Exactly.
Yes,
Osiris or Osar risen is a degree. That's the Christ degree. But that being said, you hear a lot of people talk about, they plagiarized it. They copied it from Kemet. They copied it from Kemet. They copied the story from Kemet. Blah, 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 blah. See, only people that think linearly think that way.
Yeah.
You understand? But the lessons that Jesus and Jesus' mother and John the Baptist's mother got, they got from adepts from Kemet, directly from their mouths. And it said, we measure time by cycle ages. Well, here's the thing. Adepts measure time by cycle ages. The illuminated measure time by cycle ages. The masses measure time in a straight line. That's what they're
Indeed.
adepts. And that's the bottom line. So that being said, if you understand that time is measured, we measure time by cycle ages, then it isn't the person that's important. It's the fact that they follow the pattern that's important. So in fact, the fact that we can draw so many parallels from the Jesus story to the story of our star, it validates Jesus. It doesn't invalidate him. It validates him because you can see the clear pattern.
That's
That's
right.
how you look at people. You don't look at the finger of the teacher pointing the way to the moon. Look at the moon, man. Don't
Yes,
be,
sir.
you know, the pattern is what's important, not the person. Peace.
Indeed.
It's,
Yeah, they had to get past the whole thing. You know, the first step in that debriefing from the European psychology was freeing ourselves from the European image of Jesus that we had been given. You know, the
Right.
Renaissance painter painting depiction of Jesus from Europe. That's now we beyond that. Now let's dig deeper into what's going on. That's the whole point that we're coming to as well. Like you're saying, they still stuck back. We're past that, you know. And the prophet, again, his genius was putting all this in such small pamphlets because he took into account the common man, right? I remember my coach who was coaching me in my teaching, he was like, some of your lessons are too simple. But I'm knowing that some of my 8th graders can only read on the 2nd grade level. So why I'm going to put a lot of jargon in the lesson that they can't even understand?
Right.
The genius is being able to put those same high principles in a simple form. But they miss the simple form. But here's a key. Everything mentioned, research was mentioned. When he mentioned Jesus studied the Vedas, what are the Vedas? The Psalms. Who is prophet introduced us to? Krishna, Buddha, Confucius, right? He introduced us to all these different schools that if you follow those footprints, it'll open you up to all the science you want. But if you're a simple man and that's enough for you, you still can converse adequately with those who have all that super detail. And therein lies the genius of the prophet.
Islam. All right. So brother, since you're right there, first question from the chat room. Do the Moors believe that Jesus, and then brother Matia, you'll take the next question. Brother Tunagil, do the Moors believe that Jesus resurrected? That's the question. Let's try to keep it brief, and then we'll go to the just down the line, so we won't be up here at 12 o'clock at night. Because I know my brother Sharif, he probably was kicking somebody bags and holding bags and getting kicked and all that type of stuff. So, and I know Mati was getting it in at work. I know I work hard today. I know all the boys work hard. So we're going to keep it short, brief, and then we're going to roll out. And we definitely going to do a part 2. But that was the question. Do we believe that Jesus resurrected? That's the question. Let me see what else we had while you working on that.
Who's that question to?
To the Gale.
Oh, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry,
Yes,
brother.
sir.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm going to work my way down. I'm sorry, my brother.
I'm gonna tell you what, Mo, in my earlier commentaries on those particular degrees, we indulge a couple of possibilities. We indulge the possibility that is taught in Islamic circles that Jesus was never killed on the cross.
Woo!
You know what I'm saying? And some of the Holy Grail teachings teach that as well. And that's how, you know, his descendants and his family, et cetera, et cetera. But there are other degrees, too, that speak to being able to raise your flesh to a higher vibration to be able to traverse between states of vibration, so to speak. And it says Jesus was adept and able to demonstrate those degrees, right? So it depends on from which perspective you come in as far as that's concerned. But the adepts of all ages, if you study even, let's say, the yogis, without going into too many details, they talk about how to raise the vibration of your physical body to a higher vibration where you can travel. Some call it astral traveling, etc., different bodies. So there are degrees and lessons on Jesus as it pertains to him demonstrating those degrees. I'll say that. And
So did he resurrect?
Well, in other words,
yes,
he was never dead. What he's saying is that he was
Okay,
able to
okay.
release. Man is able to release himself, from this physical flesh, and come back into it at will once you master self. This was the degree of the very first man. He was able to lay it down. It didn't say he died. It said he ascended unto his Father God.
Yes.
And he said all men can do that, and it's known. If you can imagine this, some of the severe whippings that our people had in slavery, some of them was able to do that same thing. Because the torture and the pain was overwhelming, would leave the body, come back later, and continue on with their life.
So for the person in the chat room, I see you want to say tap dance, The answer is literally, physically, as you know, the heart stopped beating, the decomposition begin to take place. From my research, it's no. Let me say that.
Can I answer that?
Yes, you come on, brother.
I'll respond to it, and I'm going to be pretty simple about it. The question is, do the Moorish Americans believe? Believe is the key word. Believe that Jesus rose from the dead, conquered death, resurrected. My answer is absolutely, and I'm going to tell you why. Because this teaching of terrestrial immortality is the objective of the secret teachings in ancient Kemet, at Heliopolis, at Saqqara. This was their teaching. How can you, especially if you ascribe to Kemet, to the whole Kemet tradition, how can you not believe in the possibility of terrestrial immortality? Because that's what was taught. That's just the fact. Okay? Terrestrial immortality is the objective of the illumined and the enlightened of every nation, and is taught in the secret schools of every time and clime, including ancient Kemet. Prophet Drew Ali was the one that revealed to us that Jesus studied there. He revealed that through the 18 missing years. So, we say that belief comes before faith, and faith is something. Belief is that which you think perhaps is true. The reason we say we believe is because we ain't done it yet. But you know what? This is what was taught, and others did it before, and so there we go. We absolutely believe. Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry.
So are you saying that as we know death, the heart stops, the brain dies, the physical death literally happened?
Right. Oh, no. Okay. Now let's
that happens in modern society.
No. What I'm saying is, I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about.
Literally. That happens. That happened nowadays in the hospital.
Listen to what I'm saying. I just want to get it for the people. I'm not talking about declared dead, but your some of your bodily functions are still function. Everything is not shut down. What I'm talking about dead is a physical total shutdown of all faculties. Mm-hmm. There's no blood moving, there's no heart beating, there's no circuitry in the brain, there's nothing. I'm not talking about your heart stopped and then they restarted and you was declared dead. I'm not talking about that, because the people are asking in the chat room, that's what they want, a literal answer. If we can, if you will. Go ahead, Brother Sharif.
I'll definitely deal with that. First, and once again, okay, I'll give you an example. Around the turn of the century, I think during the First World War, this European Christian missionary by the name of Baird T. Spalding, that's his name, Baird Spalding, went to India to propagate the Christian faith. Told the story about Jesus, a man who died on the cross, was buried 3 days, rose from the grave. They were like, wow, that's a neat trick. Matter of fact, we got a guy right here that just did that. As a matter of fact, we're about to wake him up right now, or he's about to wake up right now. And literally, that's what happened. He was like, oh my goodness. He immediately stopped teaching Christianity and began to study under the sages in India. He wrote a series of books, by the way. But you can look his name is Bear T. Spalding. My point is this. For all of us and any of us who are stuck with the idea that man cannot conquer death, we are stuck in the European psychology. Understand that. We are stuck in the European psychology about the man Jesus and about our own divinity.
Yes,
That's
sir.
just the truth. So we don't really understand the possibilities of men if we're going to put a cap on the abilities of man and the possibilities of man. Now, travel outside. You wouldn't even got to travel outside of this country. Find a real Santero or Babalawo, or find a real one, and they'll talk to you. If you gain their confidence and you start talking about these issues, they'll render you favorable replies, but they'll also do it with the mindset of knowing you came up under European psychology and you wouldn't believe them most likely if they told you. And that's just the truth.
Right.
We have
Islam. I like to add on to that as well. And basically, the brother is right. It is the European concept because the ancient masters of Africa and Asia, if you will, and they'll tell you that. And what we consider all of this stuff that's around us, this is matter. But in the European concepts, they teach you that there is such a thing called inorganic matter and organic matter. And there's these substances that are alive, and then there are these substances that are dead. But in reality, like what the brother was saying, there is no such thing in the known universe as dead matter.
Right.
And this is the science of what the brother was saying. Because if you read in the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, it basically breaks that down when they told the brother that the fix has been solved.
Has been solved.
You follow what I'm saying? So basically, when you go through, and this is not something that you go buy a book and read, I know how to wake up from the dead or resurrect from the dead. These things take lifetimes and lifetimes and times of study, I should say, where you can begin to tap in to those atoms or into that matter that people in our frame of mind, or frame of mind that we have adopted from the European, when you could tap into it, you could fix the solve where you could electrify the atoms or give those things life, which you can reverse, if you will, what we term physical death. The human cells, and they'll tell you that in science, that the human body renews itself every 7 years. Basically, you're not the same person that you were, if I'm not mistaken, 7 years ago, because all that stuff transforms and turns and give itself new life. So imagine if you had the spirituality or the spiritual adeptness to control that process. There will be no death for you either, because there is no such thing as dead matter in the known universe.
Yes, sir.
It's not.
And when you hear those ones say we tap dance, and then we know, we be like, okay.
No.
No. I'm making a point. That tells me when someone makes a comment like that this is just something they're not hip to.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? It's something you're not hip to. So for the ones who have eyes to see and the ones who know, they recognize. So I say that.
See, I believe through my personal studies, I believe in the dynamic of the body being quickened by the holy breath, which is a story within itself.
Yes,
so if I would dig into it, I gotta associate how it is quickened, where its soul is there with its manifest but unmanifest type of demonstration. But that's a story for another time. But nevertheless, man, I think I think we did well on this subject. But let me go to Mati. Mati, I got to ask you, then I'm going right there. Mati, I got to ask you, brother. What do you say to the detractors that say that we believe in the slave narrative of Jesus, that we are cotton picking, soft? Let me stop agitating. But that we just soft, we turn the other cheek, and we believe in this narrative that we must follow this with our head down, eyes closed, bumping in the walls. What do you say to those detractors as it relates to more science and our stance on the life of Jesus? I know that was a lot.
Well, I would just say simply, first of all, do a little study on the prophet, because the prophet said the Moors are men, upright, independent, and fearless. You don't get a cotton picker head bowed softly from that. So that's the first thing that I would say. Secondly, I would say, the prophet taught us about the life, works, and teachings of Jesus. Something that you didn't get, something that the Christians still don't have. They can teach you about what Jesus taught, but they can't teach you about how Jesus got it. They can't teach you about his life, his works, his teaching, his travels, and how he was raised, who he was raised amongst. We can teach you those things. The prophet taught us those things. He taught us the places to go to get those things. And he made us, in that particular image and after that particular likeness. So, again, say that, we're softy, we bow our heads. First of all, man, you must not know any real Moors. I don't know what Moors you're dealing with, but I hope you don't run across a real Moor with that type of thought pattern, because because Moors are men, and that's definitely true. Our definition of angel is a whole lot different from a lot of people's definition of angel. So
that's right.
So you don't really want to cross that borderline. But again, as far as the whole Jesus story, but just as far as the Jesus story, though, Mo, the prophet said, these teachings are for all those who love Jesus. When you love somebody, and you want to know all about them. You want to know what he started. You want to know what they learned. You want to know who taught them. You don't know what schools they went through. You want the whole full story. You don't just want the ending part of it. After he done conquered, after he done went and turned the tables over, after he done unsheathed the sword. You want to know the full story. You want to know how he became the man that he was. So this is what we learn, brother. We don't, all that other stuff, is just talk. And how talk is, man. People love to talk. So
you're not gonna bait us to come on your platform. It's not happening. All those desperate attempts, we see through it. You're not making no sense. We know what the underlying is. You're trying to bait Brother Sharif to come out back in because you took that L on the tent. Let it go, man. Like Teddy P, let it go.
Exactly.
Before I get to my brother, L, I've already stated, those guys that is trying to bait us, or trying to bait Brother Sharif, or any Moorish American for that matter, we say, and I hope I'm speaking for y'all. If I'm wrong, please check me on this. But I'm going to say, this is me, Brother Tahaka Bey, that we would accept any challenge as long as it don't cross the line of disrespect and it's real scholarship according to what you know. And it is hosted by Moorish World.
That's right.
There you go.
It is hosted by Ali's Men. And it is hosted by dedicated Moorish Americans within the Moorish Science Temple of America. We will debate anybody under the form which the other people has really did a good job in promoting it. But we will only debate under those terms. If those terms are not met, don't even make a challenge. Period. Now, with my I think are we all in agreement to that?
Yes, sir.
I see head nods. So we good. So there's no need to make a challenge. Secondly, we will even debate those who are descendants of the great apes. Those who are descendants of the monkeys.
Monkey man.
Yeah, we would even debate that. But I tell you what, We're going to have some people watching you because the monkeys like to sling that doodoo. I seen it at the zoo, Baltimore Zoo, right there up there in Park Heights. Not Park Heights, Drury Park. They got a zoo up there, and the monkeys, they go crazy sometimes. So we would definitely, do it, but we're going to have some mesh and stuff.
Yeah, we have to teach about that God chemo
too. Brother, now, as we move forward, and we're going to definitely have a part 2, I want to ask you a serious question real quick. How does the story of Jesus, as we know in Palestine, from the Holy Quran of the Moorish Temple of America, or the Holy Bible, as we know it, relates to the story in the Holy Quran of Mecca, as some would say the Holy Quran of Muhammad? How do those two stories go together?
Woo!
How do
Let's
we
go.
make the connection? In the short version for me, brother, because we just want to give people a taste of where we're going with this on part 2 in the future.
Islam.
Good
question. Good question, brother, man. And I can follow up on what Brother Tunica L was saying earlier. I'm going to give a short answer. They had people who basically were Nazarenes, people who eventually what they call Coptics, so on and so forth. These people were the original followers of Jesus. They know who Jesus was. They had the basic understanding of Jesus, the basic understanding of his teachings. Following up on what Brother Sharif said, Emperor Constantine came and he held the Nicene Council in 325 AD. They introduced a system, a body of knowledge. They went about, and after they solidified that council, they went and they found all of the other people and they labeled those people heretics. And they went out and they killed all of these other Christians. I shouldn't even call them Christians because that's an inaccurate word. That's what they call them. But they went and killed all of these other people who were teaching the teachings of Jesus and carrying on in his name. And they took over the empire, took that name. So in our teachings, we teach it's either here or there, but in our teachings, when you read the questionnaire, we talk about Muhammad the first came to complete the teachings of Jesus. And with that being said, the only thing the Prophet Muhammad did was he carried on in the Holy Quran of Mecca. He carried on the same traditions of what all of those other Nazarenes was teaching about Jesus anyway. And if you look up the Aryan, not A-R-Y-A-N, but the A-R-I-A-N, the Aryan concept of Jesus, this so-called heretic sect, was the same concepts of what the Prophet Muhammad teach. And I'm almost done. 1 second. When Prophet Muhammad, before he rose to ascendancy, it was a Nazarite or Christian bishop. When he saw Muhammad, he looked at that brother and he blessed him and he said, this man right here is going to be the prophet of our age. And that brother was a bishop. He wasn't no Muslim, according to what they call a Muslim or what have you, or Islamic. This man was a bishop who taught Jesus' teachings, who beheld the Prophet Muhammad and said, this man is going to be a prophet when he grow up. So with that, I'm out. Peace.
Islam. Real quick, Brother Sharif. Yeah, that was a good answer, brother. Excellent, excellent, excellent. And Brother Sharif, for you, my brother, you know, in the Moorish Temple of America, it talks about when Jesus traveled to let's say Egypt, for example. When he traveled to Egypt in Mary and Elizabeth, they was taught in the sacred groves, as the story goes, and then Jesus was schooled and taught. Is there any outside sources or references that can put? We already know, we already established that the name that, but that these, not Jesus, these sacred schools exist. I know Heliopolis, but I don't want to say it. But any reference that the people can look to and show that these sacred mystery schools that was used to raise the consciousness of those that was to lead a group of people? Any references for the people that they can look up?
Islam. Yeah, there are. It's funny because my wife just shot me the side eye. Like, you gonna give that up? But,
Sis, I'm sorry. It's for
but I'll preface the answer with history about a very, very, very powerful mystic. This mystic was so powerful, and this was a contemporary, in the contemporary time. This mystic was so powerful that he was the individual that Hitler was speaking about in his book, My Struggle, or Mein Kampf, when he talked about the new man, what he called the new man. The quote in the book from Hitler said, when he was speaking about this particular mystic, was, "I have seen the new man. He was cruel and intrepid, and I was afraid of him." This is what Hitler said in his own book about this particular man I'm about to tell you about. This particular man came out of the Pakistan area. He was an Islamic mystic by the name of G.I. Gurdjieff. Now, what's significant about Gurdjieff was in his initial quest for knowledge, he had read some old texts, right, that spoke of ancient schools of mystery teaching that were located in specific areas. All he had as a reference was those texts, but he was a man of means. He had some money, he had influence. So guess what he did? Packed his bags and went to those physical areas to look for remnants or teachers from those schools. And that's how he got his start. So in other words, the books, see, what we're revealing here is what the Illumined know, not what the masses know. The masses don't see this, right? So the books that the man read were breadcrumbs. Oh, this wise master was a master in this particular location. Okay, you may take it as a story. And if you just take it as just a story, you will never go. But there will be someone that's so intrigued enough that he will take that first step on the rung of salvation called what? Belief. And belief isn't just something that, oh, I just have a wish in my head. Belief spurs action. And so that's what he did. So that being said, is there a school called the Acropolis that where secret mystery teachings were taught? Absolutely. As a matter of fact, if you look at, a lot of the shows that they show nowadays, which I don't really subscribe to, ancient alien shows and this, that, and the third, the Acropolis is one of the hottest topics, in the Lebanon, at an area called Baalbek. Why? Because the largest quarried stones known to man are there, and they cannot figure out how they were quarried. I mean, stones that are just ridiculously big.
Oh yeah.
But this is the Acropolis. Now, and so you have the school of the Acropolis. You have of course, Heliopolis in Egypt. You have Saqqara, where John the Baptist studied. That's there too. As a matter of fact, a very powerful and celebrated text comes out of the temple at Saqqara, and that's called the Pyramid Text of Unas from 2340 something BC. As a matter of fact, and which we'll show and we'll demonstrate in another show, the Pyramid Text of Unas we can put side by side with chapter 3 of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. For any of you that think that our teachings don't come out of ancient Kemet, we can do it. So, God, I say peace.
Brother, I tell you, when you really know how to bring it home, brother Shamil. Last but not least, my brother, do you think, and this is just your perception, do you think our prophet Noble Drew Ali personified the life of Jesus?
Absolutely. All you gotta do is look at his works. And again, that goes back to what I was saying in our article about Savior of Humanity. You follow what I'm saying? It's where it says only the things of this prophet day differ from the ills of the days of the past, and yet the remedy of the ills of today is about the same as the remedies for the days of the past, all turning about the pilot love.
Islam. Islam.
Love for humanity calls for him to come to his people. You know what I'm saying? Like they use that old term in the Bible that Jesus came into his own and his own received him not. Well, the same thing goes with Prophet Noble Drew Ali.
Islam.
He came into his own people. He's a universal prophet, but he came to us because we needed him the most.
Man,
so you see it right now where our own people are rejecting their own prophet, someone who came to give them everything it takes to save a nation, and they just got to take it and save themselves. And that's all I got to say. Islam.
Islam. Now, I'm going to try to weave this together because truth is but one. The reason why I asked that final question is because we of the Moorish Science Temple of America and those outside of the Moorish Science Temple of America that subscribe to true Moorish ideology believes that our prophet, Noble Drew Ali, is the Jesus that you've been waiting for. Don't panic. Calm down. What we're saying is that the things that Jesus demonstrated 2,000 years ago or more, the prophet Noble Drew Ali demonstrated the exact same thing. But I must add, one thing that's unique about the prophet Noble Drew Ali that is more unique than any other prophet that ever walked the earth. Let me make sure everybody in the chat room go crazy. The most unique thing that he did beyond any prophet. Moses split the sea, whatever, Jesus walked on water, all of these things. One of the things that Prophet Noble Drew Ali had to deal with is with a people who did not know who they were. The people that Jesus came to, they knew who they were. The people that Muhammad came to, they knew who they were. The people that Buddha, Abraham, on and on and on and on, they knew who they were and who their forefathers were. Even though they were in the midst of confusion, they knew who they were. We did not know who we were. On that principle, on them basis alone, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali deserves you to look into and research Prophet Noble Drew Ali. For that alone, whether you believe that we're Moors or not, he was the first to organize and to teach people who they were. Whether you believe it or not, everything after that is a Johnny-come-lately. He was the first. And I say that to say because a brother said, well, he was a slave like us. He was just a slave like us. And now I got to tell you the truth so arrogantly. There was not a person to organize our people in the way which our prophet organized us as a nation of people. Not one. Marcus Garvey prepared that action, prepared the ground, prepared the way for our prophet to introduce us as a nation to the families of nations. So I say the prophet Noble Drew Ali, for that alone, deserves research. And there's no slight at my Hebrew brothers that are going into the nationality realm. There's no slight to other organizations that go into the nationality realm. But I'm saying this right now. There was not one before the prophet Noble Drew Ali to begin to organize and teach nationality. You may hear some people talk about it. You may hear some people hint to it. But to organize us, there was one. And that was the prophet Noble Drew Ali. And everything that every other prophet has done before him, he did. And you can add that to the resume. And with that, I'm going to close, but I'm going to let my brothers either add on or say something, and then we're going to wrap it up, family. Anybody? Everybody? Hey!
Islam, I just say I definitely appreciate the opportunity, brother, to reason with my brethren. You know, we all say we demonstrate to the wise for our own improvement as well. So, you know, it's been an excellent discussion. Hopefully people are a little more enlightened, because again, our teachings are more than just face value. You can't microwave it. As we demonstrated, I think we started to demonstrate to see that there are some depth to the teachings of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. So gratitude, and I say love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice to all my people listening in and viewing. Islam.
Islam. Anybody else? I don't see no questions in the chat room. I'm going to play this song, and then we're going to check out Islam, man. If anybody got any questions, you can email me at taharkabay@yahoo.com. I hope y'all got something out of this. Coming up on Sunday, we're going to have another fresh topic. We're going to revisit this Jesus thing again. We also going to revisit, we're actually going to visit talking about nothing more than the greatest prophet of our time, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, because it's probably somewhere in the hills of Egypt, or in the deserts, or somewhere in Palestine. It might be somewhere, a sage somewhere. It might be, but I'm talking about the one that came to us. We're gonna have a whole dialogue. I'm not sure if we're gonna do that next Wednesday, but we're gonna have a whole dialogue, and we're gonna talk about the true history and the true teachings of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, as well as his travels. You see, because a lot of people think it's just a myth or a fable that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali went to Cuba, that some people even say he was on a circus, and some people say that, and we're going to address that. We are the ones that will address the things that people have been scared to touch for years. We'll do that right here on Moorish World. Islam, family. And it's a new day for the Moors, family. That's just what it is. Y'all don't know what y'all started April 10th. We thank you for it. Y'all should have left us alone. Because now, you open the door for us to teach the truth. Out in the forefront, because we've been teaching it the whole time. But here we go. Here we go. It's a new day for the Moors. Oh yeah, Islam. It's a new day for the Moors. Here we go. Y'all made me do it, ain't gonna do it. Try to work the job when I was going through it. Say hit the streets, and when I hit the streets, try to stay in the temple. Same speech, same talk, same part. No bite, well alright. I'm the heart making, I'ma handle that. My brother spoke to me, say handle that. Now front center, front line. Look at y'all, want mine, but it ain't mine, it's God plan, the law plan. Oh man, 2016, all you gonna see is Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Old Moors, step aside, 34, come on, let's ride. Hey! It's a new day for the Moors. Hey! It's a new day for the Moors. Oh yeah! It's a new day for the Moors. That's right. New day. Hey! It's a new day for the Moors. Hey, Moors. It's a new day for the Moors. Oh yeah! Islam. It's a new day for the Moors. Check it out. You can live by a prophet of God. And you can tell me you can't go hard. I'm a more of old, the one who rode the elephants over the Alps in the cold. Even with the Spain, rearrange the terrain. Even try to civilize Cain. Now cipher. 2016, I'm gonna tell you what this means. My tassel roll 360. Do you really think you can tell me what the noise ain't? Do you know I look up the phone and bay? I roll with the prophet, I'm a prophet more. Follow the prophets, or I profit more. Stop it more. Hold in the world and make me drop it more. Let's drop it more. It's a new day for the Moors. Hey, Moors. Hey, Moors. It's the new day for the Moors. Oh yeah. Islam. It's a new day for the Moors. Yeah. It's a new day for the Moors. Hey, Moors. It's a new day for the Moors. Oh yeah. Islam. It's a new day for the Moors. Between you and I am the wise. You should never let down because I'm all divided. I need more teeth, anybody but true, but the people that love you, they don't believe you. Probably think you got jail religion. People not strong, that stench up prison. Speaking of prison, that's all y'all attract. But what about the children? Y'all ain't that. Y'all scrap that. I ain't even tripping. I tell you what happened when the law give you vision. No government grants and no food stamps. A lot of the temple for watching the ants, for watching my prophet and listening to the law. I will be in hell if I listen to y'all. Listen to y'all. Talking on Moorish, walking on broke, but that's the show for oh. It's a new day for the Moors. Hey, Moors. Hey, Moors. It's a new day for the Moors. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Hotep. Stop Hotep. Hey. Hey. It's a new day for the Moors. It's a new day for the Moors. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's a new day for the Moors. That's right. Stop screaming, banging about our greatness. 34 generations deep in the faces. They don't really care about the bills of the dollar. They find very close to this Gucci. Crowd. Who you uplifting? Nothing. Nada. Who you uplifting? Nothing. Nada. Nothing. Nada. Nothing. 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 Nada. Everything in mind that is going with the past. If you flex, I'm a blast on you in the staff. My young boys coming, they be coming for a trend. But before they go to love, this is not for a set. So watch your slander, cause they got the hammers. And like G's, I'm protecting G's. I'm a truly apostle. Don't get hostile. Claim, don't tell them what I do for the gospel. Oh! It's a new day for the Moors. It's a new day for the Moors. Oh yeah. It's a new day for the Moors. Oh yeah. It's a new day for the Moors. I want to get y'all one more. Oh yeah. It's a new day for the Moors. Oh yeah. Time for the Moors to stand up. Stand up. We've been in the background too long. Get on your square, boy. It's a new day for the Moors today. Yeah. To Harker Bay. Get at me. That's right. Check this out. Let's do one more. Can we do one more, family? Let's do one more. Hold up. I rise. Let's do one more. Let's do one more. Let's do one more, family. I'm trying to be your friend, man. Hey. Hey, family, check this out. Hey, I just do this on my spare time. When I ain't got nothing better to do, I just put the pen. Man, let's go. Let's do one more, family. One more. Let's go. I want to be your friend. Hey, I'm doing a video for this one. Islam. Yes. I'm doing a video for this one. I'm trying to be your friend. Stop playing. Hey, meet me halfway. I wanna be your friend. Peace and love. Let me be your friend. Peace and love. I said you ain't never met a more like me, and you ain't never ever gonna meet one again. I wanna be your friend. Peace and love. Let me be your friend. Peace and love. I said you ain't never met a more like me, and you ain't never ever gonna meet one again. I wanna be your friend. Peace and love. Let me be your friend. Peace and love. Hey yo, I used to be a thug until I met the prophet. Now I'm all about love, truth, peace, and freedom till I return to a law. One day we gon' meet her. I'm all about justice. That's the focus of the message. Sometimes addicts make me wanna forget the lessons. I be all up in my passion from all the Moorish passion. All things considered, I start laughing. A grown man with a ponytail, another calling us Neanderthal, and he all pale. I mean, for real, this is what it comes to, my brother. We got nothing better to do than talk down to each other. Yeah, we can be scholarly, or we can get college. We are the children of a father, and the rest of our mother has nursed us all. And first of all, we people out of pain try to murk us all. You need to chill, my brother. Tell the elder the same, cause on the real, my man, I'm really about them things. I can take the feds off and get back in the low, and return to the states where they used to call me dope. But no, I'm rolling with the prophet of the law. One love, not war. Standing on that floor, and I'm holding the square. The colors and the acts that might be too deep. The less I get off track. See, our prophet was an adapt. Do you know what that is? An Egyptian adapt. It's a brother who lived by the universal science development. And now we call it Islam, but it's the same, my child. Sit at the foot of a master. I train you up, but I might have to bang you up. I still love you. And those that's thought that this ain't Islam. Everything the prophet taught is in the Quran. All that other stuff, prostrate and cover up is just the start. And there's space to be the laws, the heart. You can dress like a but you can dress like the herb. While the Moorish American boss unifies the word. You can say what you want about Dr. York, but he gave you different variations of the same thought. You won't appreciate that. You won't appreciate me. Appreciate the holy and divine duality. People refuse to admit it. He's the virgin of within it. Europeans hope that the Moors won't forget it, but we're here, strong, alive and well, resurrected from hell, with a story to tell. So pay attention and listen and consider the facts. You know it's humanly impossible for you to be black. I guess the Chinaman is yellow, a Mexican is brown. Just think for a second how ridiculous it sounds. We can turn it around, but we must unite. It's okay to disagree, but we don't have to fight. Cause if we have to fight, you know how we get. I'm still learning to love. No, I'm not there yet. So work with me, fam, and I'ma work with you. And let's all get together. together and do what we gotta do, cause on the real side, we haven't made no progress since 1929 when the prophet left the flesh. We got an Asiatic president, men marrying men, cycle shooting up the club and don't see his own sin. And those that say they conscious that took your fucks, move straight to Hollywood, straight living it up, and y'all picking it up, straight cheese and grinning, but it was your friend to help set it off in the beginning. Be careful what you put in the soul, cause it can blind you. Unfortunately, some people get paid to disguise you. Oh yeah, I wanna be your friend. Peace and love. I wanna be your friend. Peace and love. I said you ain't never, and you ain't never. You ain't never, ever. You ain't never met a boy like this, and you ain't never, ever gonna meet one again. I wanna be your friend. Let me be your friend. Peace and love. Oh yeah, you ain't never met a boy like this, and you ain't never, ever gonna meet one again. I wanna be your friend. Peace and love. Let me be your friend. Peace and love. I wanna be your friend. Hey, let me be your friend. We ain't trying to be enemies. I wanna be your, so let me be your, I wanna be your friend. Hey, yeah. Peace, fam. I'm out, baby. Thank you. I appreciate y'all.